Hey, site shedders, let me ask you something. If you could travel the world to amazing locations and do it in a way that you could claim it as a business expense, would that sound like a good idea to you? Well, let me tell you about a little program that we've got running at the Site Shed. Back in 2016, we kicked off our Travel and Learn program, and the first one we did was Ski and Learn in New Zealand. We took a bunch of Site Shed listeners and podcast trade business enthusiasts over to Wanaka, and we skied in the morning. We did a business workshop in the afternoon, and we did that for a week. And only in February of 2018, we did the second one in Hakuba in Japan, where we took a bunch of Site Shed enthusiasts across to Japan, and we skied in the morning, we did a business workshop in the afternoon. And guys, the reason we put this program together is because, we know it's hard as business owners, as trade business owners, when you're tied to location. It's very hard to get away to amazing, destinations around the world. And more to the point, when you do want to travel, you often do it in a way that you want to make sure that it's justifiable from a business point of view. So we thought, why not combine the two? Why not make an amazing business experience and an amazing holiday tied into one? So that's what we've done. And these travel and learn programs are so fantastic. And you can head across to the siteshed.com/events to check out what's been in the past and what's coming up in the future. But what I want to talk to you today about is the one that's coming up in July, which is the very first Surf and Learn program. And that Surf and Learn program is going to be held in the Maldives. That's right, we're taking a group of site shedders over to the Maldives, and we're going to be doing the full boat experience, which is going to be amazing. It's a bucket list item for a lot of people. We've chartered a luxury yacht, and we're going to be spending 7 nights on a yacht, touring around the Maldives, around the atolls there, surfing amazing locations, diving, snorkeling, hanging out, having a great time. And of course, we're going to be running a business workshop in there as well. So you'll be able to invest in your business in a beautiful, beautiful location while sitting on a luxury yacht in the Maldives. So it sounds like a pretty good opportunity, I am sure, to a lot of you guys out there. The caveat is, of course, that we're going to be on a boat, and boats have limited space. As it stands, we only have about 5 spots left. So if it sounds like something you want to do, head across to the siteshed.com/events. And you can navigate towards the Surf and Learn Maldives page there, where you'll be able to see all the information relevant to the trip. And of course, you'll be able to secure your position with a deposit. Anyway, that's all from me. Hopefully I'll see you there. Otherwise, we'll hopefully see you at one of the future events. We're going to be doing a lot of these. So ski surf, ski surf, ski surf. And we may be throwing in a few other ones in between. So that's all from me. Hello and welcome back to the Site Shed podcast. My name is Matt Jones, and you're joining us today for the second part of a conversation that I had with my friend and colleague Nils Vesk from Innovation Blueprint. This was a conversation that was spurred on from a lot of conversations that we've been having in the community, in the group lately, around creative ways to get in front of your audience and your potential and ideal customers. So there was a really, really good podcast of late with a gentleman in the United States called Dave Gatto, and he's got some fantastic creative marketing initiatives that basically 10x'd his business in the space of 6 months. So that kind of spurred on this conversation, where I thought I'd like to reach out with Nils and speak a little bit more on like a macro level of the thinking element, like how do you spur creative insights through creative thinking. So this is the second part of that conversation. If you missed the first part, do go back and check it out, because probably none of this will make sense unless you've heard the first one. And I've split it in two because it did go for quite a long time. Nils also has an event coming up in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane in May of 2018. So if it's not too late by the time you hear this, by all means get along to that. All of the details for those events are going to be available on the show notes for this episode and the previous. And if you want to get hold of Nils, you can also find his details on that page. All right, that's all for me. Let's jump into part 2 of the discussion that I had with Nils around innovative thinking.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
You know, the other thing that, and I'm sure you've spoken about these on your web, about talking about web websites, and that is the old FAQs, frequently asked questions. And I know we've been doing, you've been doing, or every trader that's listening here would have been doing a job for years and years, maybe some are a little bit younger, but some might be older. And sometimes we actually get annoyed by the questions. We go, really? You're asking me that question? And we kind of, sometimes we can be a little bit rude to our customers because we think, I can't believe you're asking me that question, and we kind of fob them off. But if they're asking a question, it means that if one person's asking that question, you can probably be guaranteed that there's another 5 or 7 people that wouldn't just ask it because they just haven't asked it, but they're thinking it. So what that means is if you can go, okay, what's every dumb question and every good question or every challenging question I've ever been asked by a customer, create your FAQs from that and then create an answer for each one of those. And then from that, you could go, okay, well, I could either have, here's a list of 100 most common plumbing problems that are solved, or I could turn them into little 30-second video tips. I could create a brochure with it. I could do something where I create a giveaway that does something. So it could be, a hammer that has something with things engraved on it after they buy me they've hired me as a chippy or something, and I do a job for them. I can give this hammer that goes, 20 ways to maintain your house, and it could be engraved on or it could be laminated onto a hammer. You could give them a measuring tape with some tips on things. So there's so many little, once you've got the right, rather than just doing a promotional thing, say Joe's Plumbing, okay, cool, I've got a little pen light, but it'd be more meaningful if you gave them something else, like, tips on how to change a fuse, or how to save some of your electricity bills.
And I mean, that's something as well that we try and encourage guys to do, even at the level of the website. When people come to their website, what do you have on your website that's going to entice that visitor to become part of your community? So if you're an electrician and somebody lands on your website and that through a Google ad or something, and they can see a document there that says the top 5 things you can do around your home to reduce your energy consumption by 30%. It's a bit of a no-brainer for people that come to the website. Like, most people are going to be interested in that. So why wouldn't you want to get hold of it? And then once they do get hold of it, then they're in your marketing system and you can start communicating to them. If you haven't got a way of capturing that data, then you've got no real way of following up with them, and it's basically a potential lead loss. But it's interesting what you say about the FAQs, because we sort of do a similar approach, to be honest, with the podcast. Like I recorded 3 podcasts this morning with a gentleman on business finance for things like cars and equipment and that kind of stuff. And I asked the community, I said, guys, what questions have you got? Because, I can go in there and I can talk about all this kind of stuff, but if they're asking the questions and, I'm answering their questions for them, it makes them, first of all, feel like they've got a vested part in that podcast and they've contributed to it, which they have. And the reality as well, for the better part is, if people are asking you questions, these are actual questions that these people are missing information somewhere, or they're finding it hard to get information somewhere. And when you get a collation of people that have the same problem, it's a golden opportunity to create content on any level.
Definitely. And what's popping up in my mind now, Matt, is actually the idea of collaboration is another thing that we sometimes forget about when it comes to marketing, and how can we be helping our mates. So for example, let's say I might be a Sparky, and I can come into a place and I can look at it. What I want to try and look at is beyond just my job. How can I be helping this person? Quite often my biggest work comes from helping a client find another supplier, another consultant who's going to give them probably more value than I can, but I know that that's going to come back in some time, either through my other consultant that I've referred to is going to come back and do it both ways, or the original customer who might not be ready for what I can deliver comes back 3 years later and go, oh, I'm so glad you recommended blah, 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 because we did this. So it's kind of like, so you could walk into a house, and even though they might be getting you to do some electrical work, you could make a couple of nice compliments about some things around the house. And then if you notice something, you'd say, hey, look, I know, I just made an observation. Please, don't take offense. I noticed that your balcony railing seems to be rotting at the moment. Have you thought
about life insurance?
And I really said, yeah. No, you don't sell life insurance, but you say, you might go, if you got that treated, if you got that done now, you're going to prevent it from working its way down into that glass, and that glass is going to be replaced. You might want to consider thinking about talking to a tradie for that one. So it's sort of
being helpful,
being on the lookout. Again, you're trying to go, how can I help this person in more ways than one? Tips on doing. I've got this one great colleague friend of mine who is sort of like a branding guru. One of the things that she's often doing is she has a guide that goes on the end of every newsletter post that goes, it's like a diagnostic, and it says, how well are you doing with your blah, 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 and download your free, branding guide or whatever it might be. So it's sort of putting out the question, giving some extra value straight away that goes, hey, maybe there's a problem there that you didn't know you had. How house proud is your house? Or do you know the top 20 ways that you can maintain the value of your house, or maintain or improve the value of a house with minimal work? And you could team up with a couple of other people that you want to sort of create a bit of an alliance with, and that's you all do your bit and pieces, and you can sort of put it out there.
A lot of guys are starting to do that, which I think is good. And I even noticed now in the community, like there's a lot of conversations there back in the day when I was sort of in the trade, there was that mindset of, well, I don't want to help, or I don't want to give away too much information because people are going to steal my ideas. But I think in today's marketplace, people are kind of coming around to the realization that if you can work together, then all it does is really improve the strength of the market and improve and reduce the scenarios where you've got people that are coming into, your industry. I mean, that's going to happen regardless. If you're a plumber or electrician, there's always going to be plumbers and electricians. But, the battle there is when there's people that come in and they'll undercut you significantly on certain things. However, if you can build like a bit of a relationship and a community and an understanding around, an education around things like, okay, well, this is how much you need to be pricing in order to stay profitable. And if you're charging this much, you can't possibly be making any money because of this, this, and this. Just teaching people basic things, which, you don't know what you don't know. But if you can help other people, even in your own industry, even that are competitors, understand that, then all it does is really strengthen the market and improve as a whole everyone's business.
Definitely. And when I hear you talking about people are worried about giving away information, I mean, everything and anything is out there on the internet, and some things that shouldn't be out there. So what it kind of means is, I think a better way to think about it is people freak out about, this is going to take me, it's going to take me too long to write something down, or I'm not going to have the time to, do this. So you go, okay, what are you already doing that you can just leverage? So classic example, let's just come back to the FAQs. If someone shoots you an email and they're not necessarily tire kicking, but they're asking a legitimate question, as soon as you see that's a question that someone else is probably going to could ask in the future or has already asked before, then you put it into an FAQ folder and you save your answer there. And then often you'll find within 3 months, you've got enough content to create, a great newsletter, or not just a newsletter, but a whole article on, the top 10 most current challenges with Windows, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of like leveraging the effort. Another thing that you could do, depending on what you do, sometimes, let's say if I'm meeting with a client and I'm doing more of a consulting session, I'll record the session. And they're going, look, I'm going to record this session for a couple of reasons. One, because you can listen back over it, and we can do all kinds of things. But what you could do is you could record. You want to be open up front. So I'm just going to record this so that if there's any questions, I can send it to you as an email or as a voice file. And what you can do is you can transcribe. Let's say if someone asks a really challenging question about, how would you deal with this? And you've been recording this conversation, you can get that transcribed with someone on Upwork.com for $2 or something to create, to write it up for you, and then you've got some great content. If you're doing, and usually it's when you're doing your quoting that you often get these questions the most, because someone's going, would you do this or would you do that, or should, what would be better? Would this be better, or what would you do there? And so it's all about, when I do something, I'm going, if some client asks me, can you do this? I go, can I leverage this in 4 other places? If I can, I'll say yes. If I can't, then usually it will be a no, because if it's a one-off little kind of customized thing, it sounds bad, but I'm just going, how can I use this somewhere else? The other day I had a client who said, they wanted to video some of my workshops. And I thought, normally I wouldn't say yes to that because that's my IP and I actually sell some videos, which this client already had. So, but I thought, you know what, I'm looking at getting some new facilitators. These are sort of some new workshops that I don't always do. So this would be a great copy. If they edit it, they do it, then I can actually either, sell it on a private membership site myself, or I can get my facilitators to watch it. So how can we leverage that expertise that we're sharing with our our customers, and then capture that to either again put it into a guide or how to or the 40 most common mistakes when someone builds a pool, or picking a pool contractor, or all that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. We interrupt this podcast today to talk to you very quickly about Tradie Web Guy's content creation program. That program has been designed specifically for trade-based organizations as a way that you guys as trade business owners can start creating content that enables you to engage better with your customers and your potential customers. It will enable you to build trust and build rapport, because what you're doing is you're investing in educating them. Biggest problem that we see with our customers today is that they're not regularly updating their websites. And that's a problem because, first of all, the search engines are looking for that. And second of all, potential customers are also looking for it. Tradie Web Guy's content creation program has been specifically designed to help you get regular, relevant content on your website consistently every month. We know that it's hard when you're out there on the tools, and we know that sometimes you don't always have the time to be able to do these things yourself. So we're taking it off your hands for you. It's a service that we're offering for you guys. We want to make sure that you're getting this done because we know how important it is. Anyway, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/content, fill in the form, and one of our representatives will come back to you. It's an interesting paradigm, like mind shift, Like I think a lot of guys, I think we could all benefit from starting to think a little bit more down that path.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose, mate, what else do you reckon we've pretty much, I think we've more or less covered what I want to talk about. Like, I think we've gone even further than I was expecting, but it's been good.
I think, one thing that we might have covered this a little bit in one of our, when we're talking about customer experience thing is, we've got a job to do, we've got businesses to run, but sometimes we forget about, what's it like to be a customer? One, in terms of how would they like to be marketed to? And then even when you ask that question, they probably go, "Oh, I don't think I'd want to be marketed to." Well, what would you like to be doing? Yeah. What would you like? And some of this comes down to something we call engineering customer delight. And that sounds like a bit of a contradiction. How do you engineer customer delight? But customer delight is what's something that is going to be unexpected, that adds value in some way, shape or form, or it makes them smile, makes them feel a certain way, or does something else. So to give you an example, some of my clients are these 5-star luxury hotel chains around the world, and one group, the Ritz-Carlton, one of the things that they do is that every one of their employees has a budget of up to $1,000 that they can spend in any way they think is acceptable to create some delight for one of their guests. So that could be anyone from housekeeping to concierge to reception or the bellman or whatever it might be. And what they've found that just by giving them permission that they can if they need to, that rather than only going to the boss or when someone makes a complaint that they think, "Oh my God, we're going to have to give them a free dinner or we're going to give you a free night's accommodation," someone who's right there at that time has the responsibility and ability to help engineer some sort of customer delight. So say, for example, you're on a honeymoon with your wife, and you're at this sort of, you're at this hotel, you turn up and they find out that, wow, this is, why are you here? So they ask the questions to open up, so why are you coming here this time? Oh, actually coming to celebrate our honeymoon. Oh, really? Oh, when did you get married? And they find out this stuff. And you find out that they're booked in for, the restaurant later on that night. And, rather than just doing what everyone else does, they make the effort to take a table out onto the beach and candle lights and just put the one table out there on the beach. It's another, 100 meters or so for the waiters to walk to, but it's something special. Now, it doesn't really, it costs them nothing. And yet those guests, those two people that are celebrating anniversary, you're going to remember that forever. It becomes, how would you call it, unforgettable. So if you think about, if someone asks for something, let's say, I'll give you another housekeeping sort of experience. If I go to a hotel, I have an expectation that it is going to be, the bathroom is going to be clean. I'm not going to get to a hotel and tweet you, Matt, and go, Matt, mate, you've come in Bali. I mean, you would not believe that the place is clean. It's fantastic. Because I expect it, and because I expect it and it happens, it's forgettable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But let's say, for example, like I do, I just got back from the USA working over there. I travel a lot, and I'm always worried I'm going to sleep in, even though I might have one or two alarms. So what I do is I ask them. I say, look, hi, it's Nils in room 705. I'm a really heavy sleeper. I know you have a call system, but can you actually send someone around if I don't answer that call to knock on the door and come in and physically shake me? Because I'm really worried I'm going to sleep in. Now, it hasn't happened that often.
Is this legit?
I have to ask for it. Well, yeah. And so if I ask for that and that happens, I've requested it, they've delivered it, so I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that's the hotel that actually did what I asked for. But let's say, for example, they know that, okay, this guy's traveling. He seems to, he needs his sleep. He's away from home. He's away from his partner, all of those bits and pieces. And so what they do is imagine if they sent up in the morning, they sent up a green tea and some melatonin, which is something that's really good for the pineal gland for your body clock. And maybe they sent up, like, here's a voucher for a free yoga class or something to keep you energized. Like, if they did something like that, I'd go, wow, I'm never going to forget something like that. Now, it would be under the cost for them of $45 or something like that. If they didn't throw in the yoga class, it would be $2 for the 2 melatonin pill, even that. So, but can you see that the thing is, often we think, I don't want to spend money. You don't have to spend money. You've just got to do something well. And to give you an example, one of my most effective marketing techniques cost me $1. And what I do, it's a tiny habit. This is, again, one of the challenges with marketing. How do we make it a habit so it doesn't feel like, oh, my God, I've got to spend, a week marketing, and that's going to mean a week off the tools, or I'm not going to be able to supervise the boys. And so what I do, as soon as if I turn on my computer, I pull out a compliment slip. I've got the compliment slip, and then I go, wow, who am I going to write this to? What am I going to write? And I go, okay, dear Matt, hey, thanks so much for having us on your show once again. Really appreciate it. By the way, here's a website that you might want to check out that will help you out in your own business. Cheers, Nils. Right? That one little activity that takes me 30 seconds, and then I put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it. That one activity has got me so much work. I've been to companies where I had written in handwriting, like, you rock, in big bubble writing. And I've turned up to that poor person in their cubicle 2 years later, and they've still got it stuck on their
really?
Cubicle wall, because, you'd be surprised how little surprise people get in their life. So again, it takes a little bit of thinking, but it's like, it's even better when you say, I've got a budget of $3. What can I do that's going to be kind of cute and fun that I could do that's going to make them remember it?
So the same fellow, Dave, who was in that podcast, he did a similar thing where he went up to Walmart again and bought a whole bunch of $1 windscreen washer fluid bottles, like for your house, so you can spray it on your window and clean your window. And went around to his customers, and he just left it on the doorstep with a little note saying, by the way, this is what we do, on the note as well. Hope you're well, blah, 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 take care. And he said it just churns. Like, he just gets so much work from it because it's so different.
It's it. It's like, it's cheap, and it's like, it's value adding, and they'll go, wow, this person has actually thought of me. Otherwise it goes to a transaction, and no one, you want more than a transaction. You want more than an interaction. You want to have something that lasts and gives some value and makes you, top of mind. And I'll give you another really little classic thing. I remember the place I live in here, the real estate agent who sold me the place still to this day will send me a card on my anniversary of when I bought the place. He goes, hey, Nels, congrats. It's your anniversary. It's now, 4 or 5 years since you bought the place. Hope it's going really well. Just that one little thing keeps him front of mind to me. And I just go, and again, so if you had some fun with this, let's say you got your pipes cleaned, again, you could do that sort of sort of little connotation there. You could say, hey, Matt, gee, it's been a year since your pipes are clean. I hope you're keeping it up. Blah, 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 and do it in a fun way that way. And it just... Yeah, that's it. You could have some sort of, put some little sugar lollies in it. You could put a toolbox in there and, keep your pipes clean. Sort of. I remember once I did something with some jelly beans. Once we did a really simple promotion. I can't even remember what it was, but it was kind of like, it was something like, people often ask me, how do I stay so energized? It's just like, it's not saying what I do energize, it's what I eat. Here's a couple of things that will give you a couple of, keep you buzzed up for the rest of the day. It was just something really simple and small. It cost, I don't know, $3 a jar of jelly beans, but rebranded it and did it in a kind of fun way and went out that way.
Cheaper than narcotics.
Yeah. Well, here's another example. If we recently sold this, we're talking $100,000 plus program with this company, and I remember, what am I going to do after it? Like the traditional thing a lot of people do is, we'll send them a bottle of champagne, and it's like, you know what? Like that's okay, but what we did is I got a what you call it, like a gift box that you can get at normal bottle shop. It's like a timber box, and it's got this little. It looks really special. And then rather than put a bottle of wine in there, we got these like crayons, we got marker pens, we got all this sort of artistic, creative stuff because we're about creativity and innovation. And put a sticker on there and sent it out, and you would not believe the excitement that it gave to that client. She was, oh my God, wow, you thought so much about me.
She opened it and went, hang on, where's the wine?
And, yeah, that's it. Send it back to it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying though. It's kind of meeting people on their level with something they're not expecting.
Exactly. So engineering some delight so that
I'm trying to think of the last time that I could have, I would have experienced something like that. I don't know if it's ever happened really. Like it's so rare, which raises the point, right? That's the whole idea. Think outside of the box to stand out.
The other thing that's kind of, I know it sounds really bizarre and really cheap, is actually taking photos of people and sending it back to them in a certain way. So
not home movies.
So lo-fi. No. But you could do something where you take. So, for example, you could do a handwritten note. That's kind of like old school. Or there are so many cool postcard things that you can get done now, postcard machines and all that kind of stuff that these, I can't remember the names of them now, but you can take a photo and go, right, turn it into a postcard and then send it to a certain person. So you could be doing some really fun, cool things with a picture of a house before and after, putting in a postcard, sending it to them, automating that in different ways. Or you might be serious, you go 4 postcards a year per customer, cost you maybe $1 if you're going through a subscription system, and then you just pick again a different theme for each quarter that you do and send it out that way. So there's so many kind of fun, and I think going old school with a little bit of physical paper can sometimes have a little bit of a bigger impact than going digital, because so many people get emails nowadays. It's almost a pain have to eliminate or delete an email rather than, this is something in the mail.
Something that's handwritten and not like a letter from the bank.
Yeah. But maybe not just an old school leaflet that's been dropped in the box by the letterbox deliverers to say, go get your pipes clean. But if it was a funny thing, it might make me think twice. I remember this. One of the things I had on my fridge was a fridge magnet from a landscape gardener, and it was just the most. It was amazing kind of mural that looked really cool. I was like, wow, it's not just like Joe's gardening on there. It was really sexy. It was like looked really good. My girlfriend liked it, so I stuck it on the fridge. Now at the time I was living in an apartment. So it wasn't really pertinent to me, but it definitely made me think twice. But it was just, everyone's doing X. Well, what would Z look like instead, or what would Y look like? What would be something a little bit different?
Cool, man. It's been a good chat, man. Appreciate your innovative input once again. And now you've got an event coming up, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that because, especially for the listeners out there that have got a lot out of this, there is an event Neil's running an event in Sydney, Melbourne, and Vegas. And so if you like what we've been speaking about today, Nils is going to tell us a little bit about the event, and there is actually an offer there for you site shedders. So tell us a little bit about the gig.
Sure. So it's we know to start with that people are usually pretty time poor. So we do a half-day workshop. And what this workshop's called is the next big thing. And the next big thing essentially is trying to help businesses be mindful of what's coming up next, what's going to be coming up in the next few years that could have a real big impact on your business, whether it's in, what gadgets or what technology is going to be going, what are going to be the customer trends, what are customers going to be thinking about, and also what are people going to be thinking of. So if you've got new employees, you're going to be recruiting, what are some of those trends going to be doing in that way? So that's kind of part of the content. But along the way, what we're going to be doing, apart from sharing what these trends are, is we're going to make sure that every attendee comes away with their own personal, call it trend strategy chart that goes, right, specific to my industry and what I do, this is what I'm going to need to start to be mindful of for the strategy for building my business for, another 10 times growth or 50% growth or 200% growth, whatever it might be. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what it is. So already we've got some people from big business turning up, but then we've got some people that own gyms. We've got people from some health and well-being kind of world. So there's all kinds of different people that are going to be there, but people are realizing that, there's nothing worse when you sort of find out some new trends come through and you're sort of a bit too late to, grab onto the technology or grab onto that movement. I mean, you can still do it, but it's so much better when you can be ahead of the game. And I'm sure the guys who are listening to your podcast here are people that want to look at, how can we be ahead of the crew and be the next ones that are going on. So say, for example, I'm sure I think we've had chats with the use of chatbots before, haven't we? Facebook, so the next emerging technology trend that's going to be coming up there is the complete AI of those, so the complete artificial intelligence. So you've actually got someone, literally a computer interface that's going to be answering those questions for you. And what are those implications? When's that going to be coming? How might you deal with it? Or what would be something else that would correspond to that type of stuff? Yeah, so there's a whole stack of things. So, and the special that we have for everyone is we've got these are coming up, I think, on the 31st of May in Sydney, the 1st of June in Melbourne, and the 14th of June in Brisbane. So we want to offer your listeners a 50% off ticket price for everyone there. So we've created a little code, which is called the Toolshed. I think I spelled it. Is it?
That's a sex shop in the Cross, isn't it?
No, the Site Shed.
Where have you been hanging out, mate?
The Site Shed. Sorry, the jet lag that just got in there. It is it's the Site Shed, isn't it?
It's the Site Shed.
It is the Site Shed, yeah. So the Site Shed, in our coupon there and the website for our event, if you just go to ideaswithlegs.com/events, you'll find all of the stuff there. But you can put this all in the show notes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'll put some links to that in the show notes for sure. And geez, you give me a little bit of a marketing idea then. Maybe I can play on the tool shed. That's awesome. All right, mate. Well, thank you. Thanks for your time, mate. That's much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Yeah, for the listeners out there, all the information relevant to those to the event that's coming up, and of course on how you can get in contact with Nils and his programs that'll all be available through the show notes for this episode. So head across to the site, head across to the tool shed, and check that out. And Nils, on behalf of everyone, thanks again, mate. Much appreciated. And we'll look forward to chatting you in the future.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.